Alright, you might want to close your eyes for this, but this engine is completely naked! I gotta tell you, I guess I'm just not in a great mood tonight, but this is one of those things that you always think that it's easier than it is, and I got a lot of work ahead of me. So I'm just doing an inspection of the cam bearings. See this front one really well. You can see the gouges in the bearing and the bronze color copper. This one, I don't know how, this is the second one, and you get burned in oil on the surface of a bearing, but there it is. So I'm guessing, I had to speculate that the clearance was really bad. Okay, so most of them, how much I can get in here and show you, but most of them have a good amount of wear on them. Although they have some, look, that's got some silver there, but what you probably can't see is the gouges on the edges. And that one, the bearing looks crushed. Like there's a huge score mark across the back. Some of that is burnt oil, but I don't know if you can see. I can see it with my bare eyes that the backside where the cam was sitting is kind of crushed down or etched. So probably a good thing that I had to pull this motor, because it's really worn out. Who knows, it might have went forever, but it's going to run better. Hey, something's back. Check it out. Now it doesn't look like much, but it is now 3,000 over on the pistons, and everything's been cleaned up. I got new cam bearings, everything's buffed and polished. The crank is wicked shiny, sitting over here. Not ready to undo that yet, but the next thing I gotta do is start cleaning it up. I gotta give it a little soap and water and get it all nice and painted. Start slapping things back on. So happy! Chrysler something. Let's see. This is actually Chrysler green. It looks like blue, but this is the original paint of the motor. So I just cleaned it up tonight, and I'm ready to paint. So I started painting the bottom end. Tomorrow, hopefully, I have time to flip it and mask the top off and take off whatever paint I already sprayed up there. Not a lot on the top to do, but towards the front, and lots of timing chain covers and stuff left to do. Anyways, soon my darling, soon my green goblin. I don't know, what is this car going to be called? I don't think it's got a name. I don't even. Okay, here's what is apparently a 727 torque flight transmission in a 1968 Dodge Polara. We have the number 261-3 stamped very largely on the top, or beaded to the top of the tranny. Otherwise, I'm not seeing any other distinguishing marks. I'm going to measure this torque converter out here in a second to maybe think about getting a new torque converter. That's what the linkage looks like down there. And search for more distinguishing marks. Getting ready to clean up the crankshaft for my 383. Carburetor cleaner, brake cleaner. Got to get some lint-free rags and some light oil, and gotta definitely get the air out here and push the anything that's in the holes out, any kind of looking for metal scraps. Get this ready to go so I can start putting mains in. All right, so now that the crankshaft has been cleaned and I've lightly oiled it, sitting there ready for install. Here's the motor, also cleaned. Probably gonna go over it again lightly, and the caps, the main caps sitting there. So I'm going to take inventory of the main caps and prepare to put in the lower half of the caps along with the first cap for the top rear. Okay, so here's my second set of main bearings. The first one had a problem with it, and they look okay so far. I don't like, makes me very suspicious that they're not wrapped in plastic, is what I was going to say. So I'm going to look these over really good and make sure I don't have to get a third set of bearings. Because if they've been returned, there's probably a reason for it. When I don't see plastic on it, that's what it leads me to believe. Yeah, so I'm gonna look these over really good right now. So, looks like a set of bearings number 2 here are kind of gonna fail. Hey, I'm seeing some little scratches on these things, which I shouldn't be seeing. See that? You can see it really good with the camera. Not that they're deep or anything, but these are new bearings. I don't think I should tolerate scratching. And then, like, some of them look like the coating, the outside coating is gone on them. Right here and here. So, yeah, I'm not too happy. That when I look at the box, I see kind of like a little bit greasy, metally kind of looking. I mean, metal's fine, but, you know, why am I seeing all this mess? All right, and they came like this in an unmarked box, so I should have been suspicious. Okay, so now this is perfect. This is how, when you get engine bearings, they should always be wrapped in plastic, if not separately together. Either way, I can see they're perfectly clean. Yeah, there's no oil and dirt in there. Even the package, it's a clean package, and hasn't been on a workbench or held by greasy hands. So an unreturned new set of bearings, it only took 3 purchases to get, but I'm just happy to have them. This is a budget rebuild, folks. So, unfortunately, no hot dip tank on this guy. Just someone with a wire brush and a pressure washer and that sort of thing. But hopefully it'll be, you know, enough so it won't be picking up tons of dirt. All right, so yeah, my bearings checked. They're the correct ones that I ordered, and let's see what we got. Gotta make sure we got tops from bottoms. So I believe they're all, are they eccentric? Holes are always in the will be the bottom. So what I want us to look for, the ones with the holes, okay? 2-piece rear main seal, and the part that seals goes towards the inside of the motor. So let's see if I can do this. It's got to be just right, and I got it just sitting in there right now, but look at this closely, how it's situated, because it's not a straight, it's like a unique fit, right? It's very eccentric. So this lip narrows down and is the seal against the crankshaft. It faces, when you're looking at the width of this, the narrowest point faces towards the inner side of the engine, okay? So I'll get a good up close on that. So see that? So that's how it's supposed to go right there. So that can be pushed into place gently. And on myself, I'm not going to put any lube on it or anything, you know, any additional seal on it. I think the rubber suffices just fine, especially in a dynamic place where there always be something running against it at all times. I don't want that to get in there and make it kind of dodgy. Anyway, so there you go. So that's the bottom shell installed. And I'm going to move on to putting the bottom half of the main bearings in here next. Leaving these, all the shells here are dry that they're going to go into. So the purchases there, those are all dry and very clean. I've cleaned them many times, went over them with the ear chuck, and they're ready to go. So the top part of the bearing, the main bearings, will go in. And you note that there's a lip on this, the third from the front main bearing. So the third from the front, this is your thrust bearing, okay? So there's just the one, and we'll go from there. Okay, so you can see on this, it's one in my hand, that there's a tang, right there. Tang's gonna line up with the tang in the casting. Let me put one down. See, you can't be in a hurry on stuff like this. Unfortunately, for someone like me, that can be a problem. So I like to be in getting things done quickly. Nice and flush. All right, good. Number 2. So if that hole wasn't there, the oil would not have a place to circulate into the bearings. Want to make sure they're in there good. Bare hands, making sure things snap in. Okay, so number 3. Number 3 is a special guy, right? So that one's eccentric. That one's going to keep the sides, keep the crank from playing forward and backward like this. You can see you got a wrap down there. Okay. Make sure that's good. Good. Okay. See if we got some more with holes. So more of the same. Like this. Tangs and holes. Put the tang in the hole. Put that tang in the hole. All right. There. And that'll be it. What I might do is recheck these, make sure they're flat. Fortunately, it's cold, so my finger feel isn't the best. Okay. Yeah. No. Just making sure they're flat. Okay. Don't want them spinning. All right, so get down here and check that out. Make sure they're flat. Okay, perfect. Next phase is making sure that rear main's in there. We already looked at that. So he's in there good. So the next thing I'm going to do is do the final cleanup on my crank, and I'll be on to putting the crank into the actual motor block. Today is probably the most important couple hours coming up in my engine rebuild. I'm going to be installing the main rods and crank and the rod bearings and pistons, along with the, of course, if you're installing the pistons, you're going to be putting the rods in. So there's my pistons in that box, all wrapped up nice and clean. One other thing, and this is just the prep stuff for, preparing to get this motor together. These are lint-free cloths. Anytime I need a cloth, I'm going to be grabbing these. You pay a few bucks for what they cost. These are gloves. I'm not a beer hander. I like gloves. These are 5mm gloves that I get from Harbor Freight. So you're going to be seeing this a lot. And see, those are already too dirty. But going to be keeping things clean with that. And here is my shop manual for 1968 Dodge Polara. And right now I'm going through here and I'm reviewing the advice on the crankshaft main bearing. The advice, it should be direct instructions, but sometimes you gotta make sure it's not been modernized in some way, so you look up the contemporary news on it too. So one thing to note here, I just took and coated the outside part of this bearing with a little bit of, all I had was 1030, but just a little bit of oil to keep it lubricated once you get the crankshaft on top of it, because you're going to want this thing to spin. And you can see, I don't know, that might be a liberal amount, but the thing I did do is I went back with one of my lint-free cloths and just cleaned anything I got on the mating surface here. So those are still clean and dry, which is the other side of where the cap will bolt to there. And next step is taking this heavy sucker and putting him up, running him all the way up into this motor and making him line up. And I'm just looking right now to make sure there's nothing to be in the way, because I just want to move this once. So what's it look like at the end here? Okay, yeah, there's nothing to keep this from going on right now, nothing sticking out. A nice little amount of space there. And Well, you can see I did get some stuff down into the cylinders. I don't care about that. That's fine. Looking good. We're in there now. So I just lifted the crank and put it down in there. It had to be at least 50 pounds, maybe more. That was pretty heavy, especially for this old dude. So now you can see it's all nice and clean. I've cleaned this thing many times, made sure to go into all the oil galleries with something and push them out. And yeah, I've run a lot of stuff through these oil galleries and blown them out with the air chuck and cleaned, and now it looks sparkling. I got a little bit of light oil on there, but that's about it. So now we're going to start with cap number 1, and we're going to start by getting that up there and putting the bearing in the cap, which I'll show you in a sec. So over here, really close to the motor, here's your motor. Everything's in a small space here. I'm just keeping the area small and somewhat controllable so nothing comes into my space while I'm doing this. And I don't know, not a safety thing, more of a keeping things clean kind of thing. So here are the bearing cap bottoms here, right there. Okay, so I got them all lined up. They're ready to go. They're really close. And I'm going to be snapping them into the caps, which I have right at my foot. Okay, so here we have it. Here's the first cap, and see on the bottom here is where I got the tab. It's in there. I do the same type of thing with this as I did with the top. I take my thumbs, press it down, make sure it's in there, press the center down a little. Okay, now I'll put this down here for a sec. You can see just got some cheap oil, 1030 right there. All right, right there. Okay. And that goes somewhere. It's not. Start that one like this. Okay, so right now, you know, without needing anything, and not even a bolt on the front of the crankshaft, I can easily see this is turning nice and easy. Turning good. Give it a full turn, nothing weird, nothing clicking around, feels great. So now I'm going to move on to the second one. I'm going to repeat this for each of the caps from here on out. So at this point, we've got all of the main bearings in place on their journals, mostly hand tight, and the center one, number 3, we've left loose. Okay, so those turn still. So now we're going to try to figure out how to get our end play out. And what I'm going to do is just use a hammer here. Here we go. So I'm going to get a 5-pound sledge. I hit the end. Okay. Didn't really feel any movement there. Right, that looked like it might have moved. This end is hard to get to because of the stand. So what I've got is a piece of 1 but 1.5 by half. I get that to the end. I'm going to, it's a tough one, but I'm going to knock it here. Alright, so hopefully we got it centered correctly. Alright, let's look at that sucker. And just, yeah, he tightened up a little, so looking good. Looking good. Looking good. It's going to find its place. So, end place taken care of. Now we're going to move on to getting the rod bearings in. And I'm going to flip this thing a little bit. Yep. Good. All good. All right. So now we got to do. Now we got to do one of my least favorite things, and that is put the rings on the pistons. All right. And I think I'm going to turn this motor. Go get my wife and help me turn this motor a little bit more. Yes, I'm a wimp. The machine shop got them all lined up here as they should be in the motor, and I'm going to double check that in a second here. Not a matter of trust, it's just me being anal. They should be marked and in the right place. And I'm getting ready to put the rings on, as I said, which is a huge pain in the ass. They're 300 thousandths over, and I'm going to be putting them in like so. Basically, got to go drum up my ring compressor, and what's the other tool? My ring expander for actually putting them onto the pistons, and then the compressor for putting them back into these holes. So this is what we're working with. These are the ring kit. Alright, here's what was in there. A couple of packages individually wrapped. We've got second groove, first groove, and 2 for the third groove, which I think are the oil rings, which are a little more elaborate. Usually they're actually a series of 3 rings. We got instructions, which probably don't need. I've done enough of these. So just a little bit about rings. See how they all have a place where they're devoid of anything right there. And these, I set this up so when you look at it, you can see, you know, a complete break. Now, you don't want that when you get these rings on. The idea is to make it so that each of these line up separately. So I'd strongly advise you to look at an installation of rings video. I can't get the angles, it's just me shooting here, but just make sure that when you put the rings in, you know what you're doing and you're not making them all line up. Because these little breaks, these little devoid areas, you know, they can actually leak if you have them lined up perfectly. It's not a good thing. We're getting ready to put the pistons in, and I've already went through the process of putting rings on these, which is a whole other thing. I'd advise you to, whatever rings you get, make sure you got some instructions with them. If you don't, get online and learn that stuff, because they got to go on a certain way. They got to go on a specific direction. Anyway, so we're going to start by doing this bank, and starts with piston number 1 up front. And we're just going to keep the engine on a tilt here, and just enough so I can kind of put my hand in here over here and control the piston in without hitting this journal. Okay, so as they should be, these are my rod bearings. They're all wrapped up nicely in plastic, just the way you like them, and they look beautiful in there. And see if I can get a, should say on the side here that they are 10 over. I don't know if you can see that there, but it says they're 10 over. And I'm going to start pulling this package apart. I'm going to put these right on the fender next to me so they're in hand grab. And I'm going to start putting them together. So I put the cap for piston number 2 right next to it, and it's in the same order that it will go in. And I'm going to go ahead and get that bearing into the bottom, or into the, I guess it would be the top of the rod, into the rod portion and not the cap. Okay, so it's kind of, since I'm a one-man show here, unfortunately I can't keep the camera rolling, so I'm going to show you step by step here. So here's the nice clean bearing half that I have put into there, and I've just made sure that, you know, the sides are nice and even on both sides of the flange, you know, and then you make sure that your tab is within the tab there. All right, and now I'm going to take a little bit of pre-lube and put that on. Okay, so pre-lube is on. All right, from Tech Ultra Slick, and I'm going to put that right there. And in between, I'm wiping my glove off with a nice lint-free cloth and trying to keep things clean. So now I've cut up a piece of old piece of hose laying around here. Well, not so much old, but nice and clean new one. And I'm putting those on top of the rod bolts, like so. I got one on, and I used to have a set of things that were meant just specifically for this. Unfortunately, I only have one left. I think they're made by Cleveite, and they used to go right over the rod bolts. But yeah, I think I need to like look around a little bit and find another set of those, because it seems like lately I've been doing a lot of builds. So yeah, so it's going to go in like this. I'll see if I can't rig my camera to show you how I put this rod into the motor. Oh, another thing is when I go to put this in the motor, on the top of the piston, you can see that notch. And that notch, see that notch right there, is going to indicate the part, you know, like which direction to put this in. So that faces forward. All right, notch faces forward with the alignment of the motor, so towards the front. So over here on top of the motor, I put the things I'm going to need for the next step, and that's this rubber mallet. I'm probably going to use the wood handle to push the top of the piston down lightly, and then I've got the cap side of the bearing. So the bearings here, it's already been placed in properly, and I put a little pre-lube on. I got my nuts there, so I'm pretty much ready to go now. All I got to do is go grab my piston and give it a little shove in there. Okay, sorry about the noise. The heat is on in here. Getting ready to drive the piston, compress the pistons, and push them into the block. Make sure right now that the brake and the rings, see, like these right here, are not lined up. Okay, so we got one there, we got one there on the flip side now. I'm just making sure that they're not aligned with each other. That's out. Good. Good. Okay, so we're fine. So we're gonna put this on. This is still not big enough. The nick, I want to look for the nick in the front of the top of the you see this little nick in there, indicates that goes towards the front of the engine. So I want to keep that forward. Okay, and mind you, I got pieces of hose over my rod bolts so that I don't nick the bearings, mess up, not the bearings, but mess up the journals. Okay, so put that in. Okay, nice fit. Okay, so I got this lined up towards the front of the motor. All right, so making sure, all right, here's the fun part. All right, that's relatively lined up with the, what I could do, push this on it. Yeah, why not? Yeah, why not, Bruce? So, I just pushed it so I turned the crankshaft so it's really close, the journal's really close to the piston. All right, so I'm hitting the top of the compressor to make sure it's straight. I'm going to take my compressor tool, ring compressor tool wrench. I'm going to just tighten it up, make sure it's nice and tight. As tight as can be. And then that's it. So I'm going to use the bottom of the hammer here. I'm going to hit the top of the piston. All right, ease it on down. Okay, went in. Very good. It's in. I'm just hand checking things a little bit here. Make sure that's good. That looks good. All right, so I'm taking off my little pieces of hose right now. Take those off. There they are. Flip side. There's a flip side. So now I'm going to bring this, going to take this cap that I sat up top here. All right, so there's the cap. Okay, looks relatively clean. So there we go. We're going to put this guy on here like this, and now I got to put you down. Okay, so I got piston number 2 in, and I couldn't quite show you that because it was kind of hard to do with one hand, but there it is there. I got the cap in and just made sure everything was clean on the journals, and now I'm going to proceed to this next journal here, and I'm doing all the odd ones first. So right now I just did 2, so it'll be 2, 4, 6, and 8, and then I'm going to flip this whole motor and I'm going to do the flip side, which is all the odd ones. So we'll start with 1 and go on through 7, and then we'll have them all the rod bearings on. So pretty much it's a rinse and repeat type situation on all of these. I don't know if I skipped anything here, but if I did, just be careful, read your shop manual, and you'll be okay. Just finished putting in the final bank of pistons and rods, and you can see they're all got the notch in the top of the casing towards the front of the motor. Yep. Good. Okay. And what we have to do now is I'm going to have to flip this over with the engine facing, upside down, and I'm going to start the torquing on everything, because right now everything is basically just, hand tight, and going to go to the book, look for the specs, and start torquing this up. Okay, so now I'm in the position to get the bolt on the front of the crankshaft so I can turn it, and all the journals are now have caps on them, so everything's hand tight. And I'm going to start with the mains, and I'm going to start to do basically from the center on out a stepped torque routine, probably 2 or 3 times. The shop manual doesn't really spell it out, so probably just going to make something up. I think the final torque value is like 85, but I got to look at that too. Let me take a look at the book. See what the book says. Looking at a Chilton's, I think this is a Chilton. Yeah, it's an old Chilton's book, and I got the shop manual on the back of the car. They both correlate that it's 85 pounds per square inch for the torque on the mains. So I'm gonna start with the center main and work my way out, and gonna just basically zigzag. I'll start here, I'll go to there, and then I'll go there, then I'll go there, then I'll come up here and go here, and so on and so forth until I hit them all. But I'm not going to go straight to 85. I'll probably do, say, 50, and then I'll do 70, and then I'll go to 85, or maybe 50, 55 and 75, 85, something like that, so that everything seats properly and has a chance to kind of catch up, if that makes any sense. The rod bearing bolt is only 45 psi. That's a pretty low torque in my book, but I mean, I guess, if you were working on like a 1990s V6, it would be really wicked high. Anyway, so we're gonna, instead of doing 3 steps, I'll do 2. So what I'll probably do is 35, 45. And we've already done the mains, so we're gonna move on, and we're gonna just start with one of these center rods, one of these 2. And then, I'll do this, and I'll skip back and do that, and so forth. And so on until I get them all. So another important thing here is that in between each rod journal bearing that you're tightening, you want to turn the motor on the front, just give it a good full turn and see if it's having any issues with turning. And so you're going to do that with every sequential step. And if it tightens up too much, you're not able to move it, you can pretty much what the problem is. It was the last thing you tightened. Just going to show you a little bit of the principle. I already started on the second stage of the torquing for the rod bolts. Okay, so now I've gone from 35 to 45. So I got this one and this one. Some of these inside ones are done. I got my spinner for the front. Just make sure this is my last place. Okay, so that one's done. Okay, so I'm going to spin it, see how we're doing. Pretty good. Starting to get tighter as I tighten more and more of it, but this is just about final tightness here. Okay. So that's for the click for 45, which means you're good and torqued. Now I'm going to move to the outer parts here. You can hear those rings are good and tight in there. Okay. Just here for now. Move to back here. Good. So mind you, no oil pressure. All you got right now is just whatever you put in there for prelude. So, you know, I got my Permatex Prelude in there, and it's working fine, but it's only so much lubrication you're working with right now. Let's make sure we already did this. Good. Back to the front here. So I don't want to bore you with this. You get the drift. That's how it works. So now I'm going to finish them. I'm probably going to go back, especially since I've been talking to you. I'm going to go back and recheck the rods, put the torque on the main, and make sure everything's all set. Getting ready to install the rear main. So there's only really one way for this to go when you look at it. And it's going to go this way to where, you know, so you're going to line up the bolts. And when you do, you'll see that the only way where it's actually going to seal everything up is going to be like this. Because if I were to do it this way, damn, I don't even know if it would fit in there. It'd be like out here. So, yeah. Part with the concave part there for the seal goes toward the motor. It's also concave there, so I don't know which way it would be the way on yours, but just make sure, you know, it's a common sense thing. Make sure that once you put this in, that the bolt holes that are in, you know, so they're drilled and tap holes in there that go in the, they are the bolts that hold in the oil pan. So make sure those are all in a line, and that the, you know, it just makes sense how it goes down there. And then also make sure you got the gasket in the correct way, which for this, again, we said the part that pinches down on the shaft, you know, the smallest diameter part is toward the motor. Also, we have these little plastic sidebars that fit on the side, and when you look at it, you can see that the profile is angled. It's not a perfect square. I don't know if that's so. The angular part sticks in like that. And here are my bolts, and I'm going to pop these in a little bit of motor oil so that the threads are lubricated and they tighten up properly. So I may put a dab of sealant on either side of these sidebars just to keep them in there and make sure they're holding. But I don't go crazy on that. I don't want sealant sticking out everywhere. Just like a little smear.